here we go. We're going to learn about some common herbs that we just have right in our kitchen usually, or right in our refrigerators. With my business, one of my main missions that I have is really, I love to teach, empower, inspire, and awaken people to the healing potential that exists in so many plants that surround us. The plants in our gardens, the plants in the fields, the plants in the woods, and also the plants that most of us have just in our spice racks, like I said, or in our refrigerators, or we can easily get also from the grocery store. So it's an incredibly empowering to use plants for medicine. When we have a cold or flu, we may go to the doctor, and usually they'll tell us there's really not much we can do. Have to just go home and rest, maybe take something for the pain or something for the fever, but not much we can really do about the bug itself. But in reality, there's so much we can do. There's just right in our common spice rack even. We have herbs right there that will help us fight off these pathogens, nip them in the bud, support us as we go through a fever, to help us with sore throats, to help us with sinus congestion, with our respiratory issues, digestive issues, and on and on. So, it's just a really, it's an empowering thing. And I love to see this. And as I teach people and as they start using herbs more and more in their lives, and you just feel more empowered with your health and what you can do for it. I love seeing, and I remember myself, and then just hearing people when they first make that tea, or take that honey, or take that tincture, that herbal potion they've made, either for themselves when they first start feeling a little off, or for a family member or a friend, and they say, hey, well, I heard that, why don't you try this tea, or why don't you try this honey, herbal honey, and they'll nip it in the bud, and they won't get it. They'll call them back and go, hey, I'm fine today, and it's just that first thing, it starts happening, and you start realizing, oh, wow, like this is real, and this really works. And it's just, and then you just start incorporating and learning more and more, and you just end up with such a big toolkit with really simple things. And like I said, so many simple things that also grow around us. But it's all very simple, and it's all easy to make, and we have so much right in our kitchens. So yeah, incorporating herbs into our life brings us so much vitality, so much health and vitality, and it's fun. It's fun too. So tonight we'll discuss some of these spices and various ways we can use them and prepare them for medicine. We'll cover herbs for fighting off pathogens, for upper and lower respiratory issues, for sore throat, digestive issues, inflammation, and some other helpful tidbits here and there along the way. So I thought we'd start off with my favorite and potent and very powerful antimicrobial. Oh, right, I use my arrows. Garlic. So most of us have this in our kitchens, and if not, we can easily get it in our grocery stores, and it's easy to grow too. So whenever I feel any slight tingling of anything starting to happen, a feeling of infection starting in my body, I go to the kitchen, I chop up a clove of garlic, and I swallow it like a pill. And depending on how severe I'm feeling, I'll do it once, or maybe I'll do it a few times, and usually, knock on wood, nothing really progresses into anything beyond there. Garlic is one of the most potent antimicrobials that we have on this earth, and most of us have it sitting right in our kitchens. During World War I and World War II, it was used as poultices for wounds to heal the infection, or to stop the infections. It was so effective at this, they called it Russian penicillin. And this quote by a prominent garlic researcher kind of sums it up. He just says, garlic has the broadest spectrum of any antimicrobial substance that we know of. It is antibacterial, antifungal, antiparasitic, antiprotozoan, and antiviral. It's pretty powerful. It's even effective at killing off antibiotic-resistant a bacteria that is really becoming more and more of a problem these days. And they've found that, let's see, including, staph, MRSA, which maybe is the one we've most heard of the most, but there's others, including Mycobacterium, Salmonella, and species of Proteus bacteria. And just really kind of becoming quite a problem, and especially in the hospitals. So I like to recommend to folks, if you're going to go visit in the hospital, to have some garlic before you go in, or if you're going to have a stay in the hospital, try and bring in a clove of garlic, or a bud of garlic if you can, and try and take that daily when you're there, to help you with these kind of super bugs that we've created from using too much antibiotics. And it's a potent antiviral. Many of our colds and flus are viral, caused by viruses. So it's great for winter colds and flus. There's an interesting mouse study. I know the poor mice, but they took the mice, and they gave half of the mice garlic and half of the mice didn't have garlic. And then they put the flu virus into their nasal passageways. And all of the mice that did not get the garlic all got the flu. And all of the ones that did get the garlic did not get the flu. So nice little example there. And apart from directly killing off the pathogens, garlic also boosts our natural immunity. There's been many studies done on garlic, and they've shown that it increases many of our immune cells, including our T cells, our B cells, our phagocytes, our macrophages, and natural killer cells. So it's just a very potent, awesome thing to have. So how can we get more of this into our bodies? What are all the different ways? Garlic is pretty pungent. It's all very pungent, very spicy. Some people love it, but it's a little too strong for others. So I'm always trying to figure out different ways that we can ingest our garlic as medicine. So let's see, I go to the next. Okay, there we go. So first of all, when you do take garlic for medicine, you do need to cut it or crush it. It needs to be the cell wall's broken and then be exposed to the oxygen in the air, and this will allow a enzyme in the garlic, allanase, to convert allan to turn it into allicin, which is one of the prominent constituents, that active constituents, medicinal constituents in the garlic. So you do need to cut it or crush it. If you take the whole clove by itself, swallow that down, it won't be as effective. And also, I like to tell people that definitely try and eat something when you are taking your garlic, because it can upset your stomach. So there's different ways. Like I said, I'm really good at taking pills. If you're really good at taking pills, then you can just chop it up, stick a little clump of it on the back of your tongue and swallow it down like a pill. That's mostly what I do because it's quickest and easiest, but that doesn't work for everybody. So a yummy way is you can combine it with olive oil and salt and on a little dish and just eat that throughout the day on bread or crackers. You can pesto. Pesto is a great way. I like to teach people to get garlic in them, because you're not only getting the garlic, but you're also getting the green. And when I say pesto, I don't mean just the traditional basil pesto, although basil's a wonderful plant too and has lots of medicinal qualities as well. But it can be any green. And really what I mean for this kind of herbal pesto is what you need is a green. And so, for example, it can be, I've used parsley, cilantro, nettle, dandelion leaf, kale, any green, really. And so the greens are just chock full of vitamins and minerals and phytonutrients. And so you want your green, you want tons of garlic, you want olive oil, and you want salt. And that's pretty much all you need. You don't need the nuts. You don't need the cheese. You can add those if you want. But that's all you need. And then also lemon or lime makes it nice too. And for most of those I mentioned, the lemon is good. But with cilantro pesto, the lime really, really is a great flavor. And also with the cilantro pesto, it's great for detoxing. So the cilantro will pull heavy metals or toxins out of your cells. But once they're pulled out, they're then circulating around your body. And so you need a binder to bind them. And so the garlic then binds the toxins so you can excrete them. So cilantro pesto is great, not only in giving you all the antimicrobial, et cetera, with the garlic, but is detoxifying as well. So that's a great thing, right? Just to have, I often just have any kind of pesto going in a tub in my fridge, and you just scoop that out and put it on anything. And it's a wonderful, wonderful sort of habit to get into, of creating pestos like that and keeping them in your fridge. You can also freeze them in little ice cube trays and do all that stuff too. But anyways, you can also infuse the garlic in apple cider vinegar. This is what's one of the main ingredients in fire cider, if you've heard of that remedy. And that has garlic, and the typical ingredients in that are garlic and ginger and horseradish and onions. I might be forgetting one, but those are sort of the basic ones in that. But you can do it just with garlic, and then the medicine will infuse out into that apple cider vinegar, and take a few tablespoons a day of that when you're fighting something off, or just take it preventatively in the morning. It's good to take in a little bit of water, not quite so harsh on your system. Eating it with honey. That's what I did with my kids when they were little. I chopped it up, and my son would just take it. If I just freshly chopped it up and stuck it in the honey, he would take it like that. My daughter still wouldn't do that. So what you also can do with the honey is you can cut it up and make an herbal honey. You chop up your garlic finely, kind of like that picture, and put it in your jar, and then cover it with honey and poke out the air bubbles with a chopstick. Chopsticks are very handy for making herbal concoctions. Always want to poke out your air bubbles with things you make. And you let that sit. It can sit for a couple of weeks at least, and then the garlic medicine will be into the honey, and then you don't need to eat the garlic pieces, but you can just scoop out the honey, and that's easier for some people to stomach that way. Parsley is also good to know about if you eat parsley, because there's always the garlic breath for sure. That is another issue with eating raw garlic. If you swallow it and don't chew it so much, it's not so bad, but you still do have garlic burps and all. But parsley, if you eat parsley after or along with it, it really does help reduce your garlic breath. So that's a good tip to know. And then this, Paul Bergner is a well-known herbalist. And so I actually haven't tried this, but I found this when I was preparing this class, and I thought this was a interesting blend. So he makes a garlic cocktail, he calls it, and he likes to use different solvents all at once, because he says they will extract different things from the garlic. And so he uses his garlic, and then he takes red wine, apple cider vinegar, olive oil, and he puts it all in a blender. And then he adds hot water to that, because he said then the hot water will also extract other constituents. Let it stand 3 hours. And then he takes a third of that mixture. I think he puts it in a cup of water, and drinks that. And he said it's actually quite tasty. And when he does that, that way it doesn't hurt his stomach, and he doesn't need to eat anything else when he takes it that way. So I don't know how it works. I can send a handout. Was going to have just some handout with a few recipes on it. So that's one I was going to give you all. If that's something we do, send out handouts. I don't know. But anyway, so garlic. Yeah. Garlic could just go on and on, probably the whole class, but just tell you these other things. It's really great for the cardiovascular system as well. It reduces cholesterol. It decreases the plaque in the arteries. and it decreases our blood pressure by both relaxing the blood vessels and dilating the blood vessels. So yeah, great for that. Take a garlic clove a day for your heart health as well. And another way that I've used it a bunch is also for ear infections or painful ears. And so for that, I will cut up some garlic and put it in a little pot over the stove and just heat it on a low flame for about 5 minutes, stir it around. And then you're going to take it off, let it cool a little bit, strain it through a cotton rag or a cheesecloth or a cotton napkin and strain it out, and then drop that. And it's nice if it is still warm. And drop that into the ear that is painful. Lie down and drop that in, and do that a few times a day, and that can get rid of any ear infection that's beginning. And also, I've also done it where I have to be out in the day and I can't be dropping oil in my ears. And I've taken the clove of garlic and you nick it so that it's still, can send out its medicine from the nicks in it. And I stick that in my ear and I put a Band-Aid over it, and I just have that in my ear all day. And that has done the trick for me as well many times. At the end of the day, the pain's gone. So there's some garlic for you. Let's see. I don't know. I guess, yeah. I don't know if we have any questions right now or.
None so far. If anyone does have questions, feel free to drop them into chat, and Megan and I can pass them along to Kimberly.
Yeah, I just realized how I won't be able to see everybody holding their hand up. So, okay. I just want to say a little bit before we go on to about how it's important to notice how our bodies are feeling. And so that when we get those first inklings that we're starting to feel a little off, that's the time, for everybody it'll be different. You might feel a little run down, a little extra tired, you might have a scratchy throat, whatever it is. It's good to kind of slow down enough in our lives, which is hard for some of us, to really notice what's going on in our bodies and how our bodies are feeling. And that can go a long ways in our health, because at that time is when we really want to start taking our spices and our herbs. And if we do at the early stages, they often can prevent anything from progressing into an illness. Once things have progressed into an illness, it's still important and very helpful to take herbs and spices. It can decrease the length of the duration of the infections and provide symptom relief. But anyway, just want to sort of mention that's really important in staying healthy. It's just sort of noticing, slowing down. And when you feel a little off, don't wait till you got a full-blown sore throat or you got a full-blown cough or your nose is just running away. Just right at that first little inkling, go and start taking your garlic or your tea or your numerous other things that we'll talk about. So next, let's see, wait, arrow. The arrow's not doing anything. Maybe if I go backwards. If I go. For some reason, my arrows aren't doing anything.
Try clicking on the slide and then click on the arrow.
Oh, my slide sort of disappeared over here. Oh, there we go. Not sure what I did, but okay. And, okay. Anyways, okay, so next thing that is one of my go-tos in the winter for colds and flus and keeping healthy when it's cold and there's bugs, lots of bugs going around, is Herbal Chai. And I usually have a pot. I always have a pot of this brewing kind of all winter long. It's very warming. I think almost every herb in this is very warming. It's antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant. anti-cancer. It thins our mucus secretions. And it's also great for our digestion, helps relieve gas, strengthens our digestive functions, and relieves nausea, among other things. So the 5 main herbs, I think, or 6 main herbs in the chai are ginger, cinnamon, black pepper, cardamom, cloves, and an orange peel. And I know in traditional chais, you can also have black tea in there. And if you want and are fine with black tea, you can add that in at the end once it's done simmering. So you put these herbs into a pot, about 8 cups of water. Again, I have another little recipe for this if we're doing that. If not, I don't know. Anyways, you can email me for the proportions. But and yeah, you put it in your pot and you bring it up. You want to cover it. I think almost all the herbs, perhaps, that I'll talk about today have lots of volatile oils in them. And so when you're heating them up, you want to make sure and cover them. Or else, if not, the volatile oils will escape into the air and you'll lose some of your medicinal properties. So you heat it up with your lid on, and then when it boils, you let it simmer for at least 20 minutes. And then your chai is ready to drink. And I like to ladle it out and sort of pour it through a small little strainer into glasses. And because I like to leave the herbs in there because it'll last, however, if you're having a cup a day or 2 or 3 cups a day, it'll last a week or it'll last a few days. And then once you're done with the tea, with all the liquid, you can then use those same herbs in there and fill up the pot again and make more chai with the same herbs. You can definitely do that twice, and you can do it 3 times even. It gets a little less potent, but it's still pretty good even after the 3rd time. So it's just a wonderful thing to have brewing on your stove. It makes your whole house smell wonderful. It's delicious. And it's really great especially if you're one who has cold hands and feet. It really increases the circulation and warms everything up. And it's delicious. It's a really yummy sort of treat that's just chock full of good things for you. So let me go through and we'll talk about each one of these a little bit. Wonder why that pops down. So ginger is just a wonderful, wonderful herb, and it's antiviral, highly antiviral. It's also anti-inflammatory, one of our best anti-inflammatories. If you have achy joints or try making a cup of ginger tea a day. Ginger tea just by itself is a lovely tea as well. And same kind of thing, cover it, let it simmer for 20 minutes, and then there you have it. And try drinking a cup a day of ginger tea and see what kind of effect it has on your achy joints. It could take away the pain. And it's great for digestion. It heals the gut lining and it decreases inflammation in the gut. And it's well known, I think, for treating nausea. It's excellent for that. It's used a lot in pregnancy, and it's also used for the nausea from chemotherapy. And it's actually been clinical studies that show that it rivals the pharmaceutical drugs for the chemo-induced nausea. So it's great. I love it as a honey. Teas are wonderful. It's great in the chai tea too. And it's just really great honey. For ginger honey, I just chop it up and put it, I guess, like I was saying, for the garlic honey, same thing. And it just makes it, I have some ginger honey here. I guess if you were here with me, I'd love to have you all taste it, but it's just so delicious, and it's so full of it's a liquid. It comes out of the ginger and comes into the honey, and it just makes this just yummy tasty honey. And you can just take a spoonful of that and put it in some hot water, and you get instant instant ginger tea, or just take it by the spoonful. It's so delicious. So got it on my finger. So yeah, let's see. Where are we next? Let's see. Cinnamon we have in there. I love to show if it's plants that we don't really have growing around here, which actually most of them in this chai we don't have growing around here. So it's interesting just to see where they come from. Cinnamon is the bark of a tree. So you can see the on those trees there where it's sort of the cinnamony color, and that's where they're harvesting the cinnamon bark from. So that's kind of cool. Cinnamon is just, it's so sweet. So adds a really delicious sweetness to the tea. It's warming. And cinnamon is demulcent. So it, which means it coats and soothes. So it coats and soothes the lining of the throat and the digestive system. And so it's really healing for those tissues. Cinnamon also is helpful in reducing blood sugar. So if you have diabetes in your family, or if you have diabetes, cinnamon would be a great addition into your life, and it's sweet and yummy. There was one study that they had the volunteers, they ate just half a teaspoon of cinnamon a day, and after 40 days, their blood sugar levels were reduced by 24%, which is pretty significant. And, that was just after 40 days. So if it went on longer, perhaps it could be reduced more, or if they took more, that was just a half teaspoon. So, that's not hard to get in. Half teaspoon on your oatmeal, half teaspoon over your apples. That's a really yummy treat. I used to give my kids cut up your apples and sprinkle cinnamon over them. And yeah, or put it in your smoothies or in your tea. So yeah, cinnamon is a great thing. Okay, let's see. How does it do this?
Kimberly, we have a question about the ginger honey. Someone is asking, do you chop or zest the ginger?
I just chop up the ginger into, where'd it go? Into little pieces. Yeah, I chop it up, but you could zest it. That would be, you don't need to do that though. That would be a lot of work. You don't really need to do that. I just chop it up into little pieces, and it's very potent just doing that. Yeah, and it comes out, and let it sit. I mean, even in here it is. Even in a so I chopped it up. Even in a week, probably in a day, actually, the honey's gonna be yummy and gingery. But the longer you wait, but even 1 week, it's pretty good. 2 weeks, and then it's just really gingery. So yeah, and you can, I just leave the ginger in there, but you can strain it out, and so it's easier to just get the honey without having a little chunk of ginger in it. Yeah. Any other questions? Well, you're muted.
Someone is asking about the cardamom, which you may get to shortly. Does it have to be in seed form?
I mean, as opposed to powder?
I'm assuming yes.
Yeah, that's a good question. I've always used it in the seed form for the chai. I'm not sure. I guess I'd have to say I'm not sure. I use powdered herbs. I definitely use them. They're good for medicine. I would more, if I was going to make a cardamom honey, I would use the powder in there. But I'm not sure. It could be fine. It could be fine just to use the powder. One thing with powders is you want to really make sure how fresh they are, where you're getting them from, because once it turns into a powder, it can just easily lose its vitality more. So like when I make cardamom honey, I actually grind the cardamom up. I get the pods and I grind the cardamom up in my coffee grinder when I make the powder. But yeah. Yeah. Okay. Anything else? No. Okay. So it's doing that thing again. Okay. Maybe if I click. Why did it do that? Okay, I don't know what I did, but there we go. Okay, orange peel. Orange peel is great in there. Just, well, it's great for us, but it also is just a wonderful flavor. So I love having it in there for the flavor. It's high in vitamin C. So I do add it when I add all the other herbs in there and let them simmer for 20 minutes, and I add the orange peel just in the last few minutes. Then the vitamin C isn't. The vitamin C can get damaged or degraded more if you simmer it for 20 minutes. So add the orange peels in the end. But again, I think pretty much all these herbs, great for digestion, bloating, nausea, indigestion. And this was interesting. This is some tidbit I found when I was doing research on COVID. And then in 2020, they did we're looking into different herbs that might have to see if they had a binding affinity for the main cellular receptors of COVID. And they found that this flavonoid called hesperidin in citrus peels, not just orange, but in all citrus peels, there's high amounts of this flavonoid hesperidin. And they found that was the one that did the best at binding to these cellular receptors, and thus preventing the COVID from binding. And it was outperforming the drugs at the time that they were looking into as well to do the same thing. So I found that very interesting, and I just started putting a lot more orange peel in my teas lately because of that, because can't hurt. Cloves. So I just think this is very cool. I didn't know this until recently, that cloves, they come from a tree, a tropical evergreen tree. You see there on your screen. And so there's these little flowers that you see there, and that cloves are the flower buds. I don't know, maybe people know that because they're called clove buds, I guess, but I just never put it together. And I just think that's really fascinating. So you can see the little bud there next to the flower, and then you can see the dried clove flower bud. So that's kind of cool. And they're very hard flower buds, but it takes 5 years for a clove tree to start producing flowers. And then you can get 75 pounds of cloves off of a tree in a harvest. So kind of wild. But cloves are, again, antimicrobial, great antioxidant, which we'll talk a little bit more about later. Thin mucus secretions, so great for any, stuffy nose, sinuses, coughs, lung stuff. And they're more well known for their analgesic properties, which means they relieve pain. So clove oil is often rubbed on the gums of teething babies. Black pepper. So black pepper, is something that we all have in our kitchens, and we have everywhere, right? On every restaurant table, anywhere. And it adds a little pungent taste to our foods. But it's also really an incredible medicine. It's really good at increasing our digestive fires if our digestion's sluggish, constipated, maybe just bloating, gas. It's really good at switching that around. It increases our white blood cells, so it's an immune booster. It's another potent antioxidant. And a neat thing about it is that it increases the nutrient bioavailability. So when we eat, when you add black pepper to your food, you're increasing the amount of nutrients that is absorbed from that food into your bloodstream. So that's pretty cool. When I learned that, I started grinding more pepper on my foods than I used to. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we talk about turmeric too, turmeric and black pepper. And again, I really love to show where these little black peppercorns come from. It's a vine. and those are the vines down there growing. And then it makes this kind of hangy, swirly, I think they're white flowers that hang down and that turn into those seeds of the pepper. And that's what they take and dry in to make the peppercorns. And you know how you can get green peppercorns or pink or peppercorns or red, and it depends on the stage of ripeness of those seeds, what kind of pepper you're getting. So kind of neat. Let's see. And then cardamom. Cardamom is it's a wonderful flavor in there. And it does also lower blood pressure. It is an antioxidant as well. It's a diuretic, which means that it helps us to release more extra fluids in our bodies. So that could be one reason why it's good for lowering the blood pressure. And it is anti-cancer. I found this was pretty fascinating. It said in this one study, they took mice again, and they exposed it to some compound that causes skin cancer. And then they fed one group cardamom. I don't know how much, I didn't figure out how much that all meant, but they fed one group cardamom per day, and one group they did not give cardamom, and they both had received this, whatever it was that caused skin cancer. And after 12 weeks, only 29% of the group who ate the cardamom developed the skin cancer, compared to 90% of the group that did not have any cardamom did get the skin cancer. So that's pretty interesting there. So you should all eat or drink and take more cardamom for skin cancer. Okay, where are we here? All right, so that's sort of all the chai herbs, which can all be taken individually or blended up in that awesome tea blend. And now why don't we move on, and I'll talk about a couple of things that are great for upper and lower respiratory infections or issues. So one of my favorites is thyme. Thyme is incredibly antimicrobial. Lots of the thyme, rosemary, sage, these wonderful herbs that we love in our cooking because they have such wonderful flavors, and they preserve meats, and they help with our digestion when we eat meats. But they're one reason that I think they're so flavorful is because of the volatile oils that they have in them. And it's also one reason why they're so highly medicinal is because of these volatile oils. So thyme is one of those. So again, it's very antimicrobial. And it's also antispasmodic. So when we have the spasmodic coughs or asthma, it's really helpful in relaxing our bronchial passageways. It also promotes expectoration. It thins the mucus out and helps us promote expectoration to get the mucus up and out or out of our sinuses. And it just sort of opens things up with its volatile oil. It's very opening to all those passageways. So it's the main herb from our kitchen herbs that I think of really for any kind of lung, respiratory, sinus issue that we may have going on. It's great to go get some thyme in you. It's great in tea. Just make sure again to cover it when you just use your. Well, let's see. I have various different accoutrements for making your little cup of herbal tea. But just put a teaspoon to a tablespoon and for a cup, and pour your boiling water in there. Cover it and let it sit for, if you want the more medicinal, the longer it sits, the more medicinal it will get. So it's nice to let it sit for 10, 15 minutes if you have the time. If not, even 5 minutes, you're still going to get a good bunch of good stuff. But it's great in tea. It's also great in the honey as well. But when I make the thyme honey, I do like to heat it up in a double boiler type fashion in in a pot of water, and then you stick your honey and your thyme in there and heat that up for half hour to an hour on a low heat. You don't want it too high. And that will help the medicine from the thyme come out into the honey more. Let's see. Yeah. So for respiratory issues and sinus issues, it's a great thing to do is to make herbal steams. And so this is where you take a pot of water, fill it about halfway, take about 1/4 cup of thyme, or you could, like I said, I like to add rosemary in there too. I have a rosemary plant that comes in the winter, and so I have an abundance of rosemary, so I use that. Just thyme is fine, but you can add rosemary, you can add sage. And you want to heat it up till it's boiling. Again, make sure it's covered, and let it simmer for about 5 minutes. And then you take that off. You have something on your table so that it's not going to hurt your table, some pad under there for the heat because it's still hot. And you bring it to your table. You have, like this woman is doing in the picture, you have a towel and you make a tent over your head and the pot. And then you take the lid off once you're under there and close your eyes, and you just breathe deeply and do that until it cools down. And it's just incredibly helpful because you're just getting all of those volatile oils are going right up into your sinuses, going right down into your lung and all the passageways on your lungs. So it's going like directly on into those airways, and bringing all the antimicrobial actions, and also just really opens things up. When you have a sinus infection, it's really hard sometimes when you can't breathe and you can't sleep at night and mouth gets all dry, and really great for opening things up. And just a steam, even if you don't have any herb and you just do a steam, it will help do that as well. So yeah, that's a good thing to know about. My kids I was very proud to see as they got older or would come home from college and see them starting making their own steam and sitting down at the table and putting their towel over their head. And I was like, oh my gosh, they're doing it on their own. So because they found that it worked, once you find it works, then you keep doing it. And then sinus rinses as well, really crucial if you get sinus, and if you tend towards getting sinus infections, or if your sinus passages get dry or stingy, with the wood stoves or just heat in the winter, we can get really dried out. And then that drying out can lead to sinus infections, because the drying out will then lead to an overproduction of mucus, which then is a breeding ground for pathogens. So sinus rinses are really helpful, and you can take thyme, same thing, and you make a tea with it. Let it simmer a little bit, and actually like to put thyme and some cinnamon in there is kind of nice, because the cinnamon again is a demulcent, so it coats and soothes all the membranes as well. And so you let that simmer for a little bit covered again, and then you let it cool down. And then you use a neti pot is one way to do a sinus rinse, and that can be done over the sink, or it's easier in the shower. And that goes right up through all your sinuses. And if it's open enough, then it comes back down the other sinus and out. If not, if you're clogged up, it just goes in and out, but it's still very helpful. And then you do the other nostril. Really, really effective at getting rid of any sinus infections or any sinus issues. And just if your sinuses are uncomfortable and dry, it's just really helpful. And along those lines, this isn't talking about these herbs, but it's also really helpful to put an herbal salve, or it doesn't have to be herbal, but a good salve with good ingredients in it, up your nasal passageways if you feel dry, and that is, really helpful thing to do in the winter.
Kimberly, someone is asking about all of these applications with thyme. Do you need to use fresh thyme or could you use store-bought dried thyme? I assume for both the tea and the sinus rinse and the herbal steam.
Yep, yep. No, you can use either one. Either one. Yeah. So it's just when you say make a vinegar or a tincture or even a honey, but out of the fresh, you want to use more of it because it has some water in it too. So it's not as potent, right? So with your honey or your vinegar, you'd kind of fill the whole jar if it was fresh. If it was dried, you don't need as much. It's more concentrated. It's dried down. It doesn't have any more water in it, and so you don't need as much of the dried. But either one is great. Anything else? Oh, also great to add a little pinch of salt to those nasal rinses as well. You can also get these bottles at the pharmacy for nasal rinses that are plastic, and you just sort of squirt them, and they squirt up the nose, up and out. It's for some people, that's a little easier, and you can just do that over the sink. So let's see. Oh, okay. And then as well, thyme is also great for the digestion. Just thyme tea itself, if you have a kind of upset belly or tummy ache, thyme tea is a great go-to as well. Let's see. So let's see another great thing for chest issues, lung issues, are onions. And so this is a great kitchen remedy. They're very antimicrobial, and they really help to loosen up. When you have that just stuck mucus that's just stuck in your lungs, it's just nothing's really relieving it. Or you hear folks with that just deep mucus kind of in there. It's onion poultices. It can really break it up and move things along and get things unstuck. So to do that, you just take your onion and you chop it up like you're going to cook it up to eat it. And you just saute it in some olive oil, maybe add a little water, and 5 minutes or so until it's translucent. And then you take that and you put it in a cotton something or other, cotton rag, cheesecloth, whatever you have, and you tie it up and you put a little rubber band around the top of it, and then you lie down or you have your person lie down and you set it over the chest, and you can put a hot water bottle over that and just lie there for half hour. It's very soothing and calming. It's warm, and it really can do the trick of just finally, if other things aren't working, just to break up that congestion and resolve the infection and the cough going on in there. So it's a little messy, but if you're at home and nothing else is working, it's a great thing. And like I say, some of these things, it seems like, oh man, I got to do that whole rinse in my nasal, or I got to make this messy onion thing. But once you do it and it works, then it's like, oh yeah, I'm doing that. I'm doing that again. And you have it. It's just right there. It's right there in your kitchen. And it's also great. This is also great if you use it for earaches as well. It's the same thing, make the same poultice, and then you put that warm poultice over the ears, and that can really draw out the infection and stop the earache and the ear infection. And of course, must say also with these things, I didn't mention before when we were putting the oil inside the ear, that you never want to put anything inside the ear if you actually have a ruptured eardrum. I'm pretty sure you would know that, because to have a ruptured eardrum just incredibly painful, and there's usually pus and blood that will come out when that happens. So anything like that happens, you don't want to be putting any of this stuff in your ear. So, okay. So let's see, how about something for sore throats? Yeah, okay. Okay, so sage. We usually all have in our medicine cabinet. In our spice rack. That is now a medicine cabinet. It's great for stuffing into our turkey and into our chickens. And again, same kind of thing, like I said before, tons of volatile oils that are very antimicrobial. And sage seems to have an affinity. It's been used traditionally for infections and issues with the mouth, the gums, sores, and tonsils and sore throats. So it's my main kitchen herb that I go to for sore throats. It's all the same ways we talked about the other herbs. Tea is great, wonderful to make a tea, but it's great to gargle with this, right, for your sore throat. So you can gargle with your tea, and then you also can make a sage vinegar, which we could possibly do tonight if we have some time to do that together. If any of you got the ingredients for that, we might be doing that. Very simple. All these things are really very simple to make, but it's just I find that some people, even they're like so many things, things are simple, but if you just need sort of the push and somebody to show you, and you just do it, and then you're like, oh, that was really easy, and now I know how to do it, and I can do that on my own. So the sage vinegar is a great way. And then you just sort of have it on hand. If you don't want to make the tea or take the time to do that, you have this vinegar that's handy, it's there, and you can take a little teaspoon, put it in a little bit of water, and gargle with that numerous times a day if you have a sore throat, and that can get rid of it. As I said, it's also good for the inflamed, sore, infected gums. If you have gum issues, swish. So you can swish with the vinegar. You can swish with the tea. You can swish with the tincture. You want to dilute that as well with water, and swish. Like you would, for when you're brushing your teeth in the morning and the evening. And that can really help clear up any gum issues. You can also powder your sage, the dried sage. You just blend it up in your a coffee grinder, and you can use that on your toothpaste, or just without any toothpaste, and just sort of massage that into your gums. That's another way to help heal any gum issues you're having. I like to make it for the sore throats. I like to do it with cinnamon too. Again, because it will coat and soothe the sore throat. Apart from sore throat, sage also has, it can help with night sweats for folks that are going through menopause and may have night sweats. I found that for some people it helps, for some people it doesn't, but it's definitely worth a try, because for some people it does help reduce the night sweats. And also really important to know that it will reduce breast milk, the amount of breast milk, and kind of dry up the breast milk. So breastfeeding moms should not be taking sage tea or anything unless they're ready to wean. And then it's actually great for that. It'll reduce reduce the milk, and it also makes the milk not taste as good. I did that with one of my children when it was time. So yeah. And then I found this other interesting tidbit was from another herbalist, Robin Rose Bennett. And she found that her mom had lost her sense of smell for a year. And she knew that zinc can be an issue sometimes with that, deficiency in zinc. And she knew that sage has a lot of minerals in it, zinc being one of them. So she suggested that her mom drink a cup of sage tea a day. And after she did, and after 2 weeks, she got her sense of smell back. And she'd been trying for a year with the doctors to try and figure out how to have that sense come back, and it wasn't working. So I thought that was pretty cool. So so maybe with COVID issues as well, if you know of anybody who might still have lost or been losing their sense of smell or taste, maybe try some sage tea and or zinc. So let's see here. Where are we? Okay, good. Any more questions? Okay. Okay, great. So now I want to move on and talk a little bit about inflammation in our bodies. Inflammation is, well, our medical research is just showing more and more that inflammation is the root. Sorry, light behind me. It sort of can be the root cause of so many of our illnesses and diseases, inflammation and free radicals. And when I say so I've talked about before, I mentioned that many of these herbs are antioxidants. And so I just want to explain a little bit what that means, because inflammation and free radicals, which are quenched by antioxidants, are two really of the main causes we're finding at the root of so many of our imbalances that damage our tissues and our organs and lead to these diseases. So what an antioxidant means is that, well, we have these free radicals in our bodies, and a free radical or otherwise known as a reactive oxygen species, ROS, these molecules in our bodies that have an unpaired oxygen on them. And so this oxygen is unpaired, and that means that it's very sort of needy. It's wanting to bond with another molecule. And so it's these free radicals, we call them. And so they go around our body, pulling apart other molecules and causing a lot of damage because that oxygen is, grabbing onto it and pulling things apart. And so they cause a lot of damage. And lots of our herbs and some plant foods are great antioxidants, and they're called antioxidants because they're quenching that oxygen on that free radical. So you probably heard that term antioxidant used a lot, but so that's what that means. What can we do about this inflammation and these antioxidants in our bodies? Free radicals in our bodies. We get them from food, fried foods. We can cause a lot of free radicals in our bodies, toxins in the environment, our own metabolic processes. Some produce free radicals. We make antioxidants in our own bodies to quench these. But with everything going on these days, or if our bodies are in balance and with so many toxins and some of our foods not being that great, we still don't have enough antioxidants in our bodies to quench all the free radicals. So, let me see here. This is interesting. So what we can do is we can just eat lots of vegetables and healthy foods. And trans fats is another thing, hydrogenated fats, that just creates tons of free radicals and inflammation in our bodies. And those can be sneaky, though. Like, you have to really read your ingredients on your food to see if there's any trans fat or hydrogenated fats in there. So it's really takes some time to do that and avoid any products that have that in them. So what can we do? So there's this article in PubMed that said spices and herbs deserve special consideration because on an ounce per ounce basis, herbs and spices are extremely potent anti-inflammatories compared to foods. For example, half a teaspoon of dried oregano has the antioxidant power of 3 cups of raw spinach. So they're just packed with some good stuff. And in 2012, there was a study that looked at different herbs and spices used in cooking to see if the amount typically used in cooking would have an effect on inflammation and free radicals in the body. And one finding was that ginger, rosemary, and turmeric showed protective capacity, both with oxidative protection and inflammation. And the top 4 herbs that were significantly effective at quelling the inflammatory response were ginger, rosemary, and turmeric. So, turmeric. I want to go into turmeric. It's just an incredible, incredible healing herb. This was just a slide. Just, I know you couldn't really read it, but just to show how inflammation just affects every organ in our body and can cause disease and illness in every organ, everywhere throughout our body. So turmeric, it's really beautiful. It's just, I mean, bright orange color. Look at those bulbs and like that pretty flower that grows. It's just really pretty. Most of it's grown in India. Most of it, 80% of it is also consumed in India. That's grown. And that's interesting in that one of the things they've found turmeric is helpful for is dementia. And India has the lowest rate of dementia in the world. So that's kind of interesting. And they consume 25 to 50 milligrams of turmeric daily, just in their regular traditional eating habits. So I found that very interesting. So yeah, turmeric is one of just the best anti-inflammatory herbs that we have. There's so many things, and I listed some here the actions it has: antibacterial, antiviral, anti-inflammatory, anti-tumor, antioxidants, cardioprotective, protects the liver, helps with detox, protects the kidney, reduces the side effects of chemo and radiation. It's a digestive tonic. It lowers our cholesterol and is a vulnerary, which means it heals and tones our tissue, heals wounds. So it's one of the most widely researched herb. There's so many things. I have so many studies that I could share with you, but I won't share them all right now. Let's see. I'll just say a few things so then we can move on, and we're going to be making together, if you all have gotten some of your supplies there, and we can make some turmeric paste together and see if we have time to make the sage vinegar as well. So yeah, rheumatoid arthritis, numerous studies showing that it is just as good or better than the drugs that are used for that. It decreases our inflammatory cytokine pathways, interrupts many of those. In cancer, it really seems like it could have so much potential with cancer. It shows inhibits carcinogenesis in breast cancer, colorectal, gastric, hepatic, prostate cancer. This was an interesting study. I like it when I can find studies where they're using teaspoon amounts of things, so then we can apply it to our sort of, how we can take it and know how much to take it. And this research looked at the anticarcinogenic effect of turmeric on chronic smokers. And so they gave smokers consumed a teaspoon a day of turmeric. And after 15 days, and they measured their urine. And so they looked at their urine before they gave them the turmeric, and they had the turmeric for 15 days, teaspoon. And it decreased after 15 days. And then after 30 days, it had significantly decreased. The carcinogens in their urine is what had decreased. So, could be just a great anti-cancer prevention as well as anti-inflammatory. It also has shown to be helpful in dementia. And like I said, India has the lowest rates of dementia in the world. Gastrointestinal, it's great. It heals the gut's lining, decreases inflammation in the gut lining, great for ulcerative colitis, irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's, all of those type things. It's also anti-ulcer. It can heal ulcers. And yeah, it increases the protective mucus secretions in the gastrointestinal tract. So yeah. I've also, okay, yeah, there's so with all these inflammatory issues that we have in our bodies that cause pain and other issues, we'll often take NSAIDs. What those are. They're aspirin, ibuprofen, Advil, Motrin, Aleve, Celecoxib. I can't remember pronounce that. It's something you take for arthritis. And they're these non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. And I don't know if, like I said, I didn't find out if I can send you guys a handout or not, but I was going to include a little essay, from an herbalist on these non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, and just that we do need to take caution with them. I wouldn't tell anybody not to ever take them. I know, when we're in a lot of pain or we have a migraine or, all kinds of things, I know, we need to use what we need to use in order to function. But it is important to take caution and to perhaps try some of these other things, and try some of these teas, and try some of adding more turmeric to your foods. Just because they do come with a lot of side effects that could be quite dangerous. There's the CDC came out a few years ago, and it's just something that not a lot, I don't think most of us have seen it or know about it, didn't circulate much, but it's what this woman writes, another herbalist wrote an essay on, and then linked to the CDC's site itself, giving warnings about the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, and that they really can cause a good increase in our risk for cardiovascular disease, among other things. So it's good to just know and to have to be trying other things that we can do as well for our pain. So let's see. Let's make a couple things together. So let's see. So we stop the screen share now.
Yep. I've stopped your screen sharing. You're all set.
Okay.
And Kimberly, I would add that everyone is very interested in all of the recipes and hands-out that you will give them. I've had several people asking.
Okay, great.
So anything that you give to me, I will pass along to all of our attendees, and they'll be happy to have that.
Okay, great. I'm just I'm still on my slide here. I'm not seeing anybody.
If you maybe click on Zoom.
There, I did it. Got it. Okay, maybe turn the light. Start. Oh. Okay. Alrighty. So, are some of you ready to make some? I'm going to do the golden paste first, because then we can walk you through the steps in that. It's still very simple as well. But if we don't have a time to get to the vinegar, at least you have the ingredients and you'll know. You just fill that jar halfway full with sage and put your vinegar in it, poke out the air bubbles, shake it every few days, make sure you label it. And after 4 weeks, you'll have a really potent sage vinegar, which is yummy to put on your food as well. But you could take a tablespoon a day or a few times a day. So maybe we'll get to that. But so let's see, are some of you going to be doing this along with me, or yeah? Okay, great. All right, great. So what we have here, what we need is, I got my pot, so I got my turmeric here. And Kimberly, so we will.
Kimberly, excuse me, you may want to take your screen down the way you did before we started, just so people can see your workspace. It was perfect.
Yeah.
There we go. That's beautiful.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so we'll take, so I got my pot, and I'm going to take, so we can all do this together, and we take a 1/4 cup of our turmeric, and we will put that in our pot. And then we'll take a 1/4 cup of water, and we'll put that in the pot. And then we just add the other spices. And now to make turmeric paste, you can just use your turmeric, coconut oil, and black pepper. But I had in this recipe that we also can add ginger and cinnamon just for some extra little oomph in there, an extra little flavor. So for this recipe, we then add, if you have it, if you don't, it's fine. Just the turmeric and black pepper is great. But then we add a teaspoon of ginger. Add it right to the pot. And then we'll add a teaspoon of cinnamon. And I already ground up my black pepper. So a teaspoon of the black pepper. Now, maybe while some of you are grinding your black pepper, I'll tell you, so it's really important when you're taking turmeric for medicinal purposes, is that you want to have black pepper with it and you want to have a fat with it, because you need the fat in the black pepper in order to adequately absorb the medicinal constituents from the turmeric. So you'll see that when you're buying supplements that of turmeric, often it's curcumin, which is one of the active ingredients in turmeric, and you'll see it. You see that it has piperine in it, and that's the black pepper. So when you are looking for a supplement, it's good to look and make sure it has a fat in it and piperine in it. If it doesn't have if it doesn't, you can take it with pepper and any kind of fat. So there we go. We have your spices in there now. And now we're just going to heat it up just for a few minutes, and you want to stir it. So we're on low heat, not too high. And we just kind of want to incorporate all that together and heat it up a little bit. Can you see this still? I guess it doesn't really matter, but. How y'all doing there? I can't see if anybody's doing this along with me, but okay, so this is what we do. We're heating it up.
Question.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, it's Lynn. I'm curious. I either I wasn't listening or I was caught up in my the spices rather. But did you already put in the oil?
No, haven't put in the oil yet. So I've put in I put in the spices and the water. So it was a 1/4 cup water in there. And we'll just heat it up for just a couple more minutes. Make sure you keep stirring it, or it'll kind of stick to the pan. So it just sort of becomes this paste. We'll kind of blend it up together. And the heating does something. I don't know what, but it seems to be needed. So we heat it up in there just a little bit longer. Okay. And then we just take it off from the heat. And then we add the coconut oil. It's good to get unrefined coconut oil. Okay. So then we're adding 2.5 tablespoons of the coconut oil. Add that right into the pot. Doesn't have to be exact. There we go. And then I like to add a little salt too. You don't have to. I just think it makes it taste better, which brings out the flavors more, I find. Okay, and then you just stir that all together. And the coconut oil will melt. Blend it all together. It takes a good amount of stirring. Get that kind of blended in there. And if you need to, you can put it back onto the heat to get the coconut oil fully melted. But excuse me, it will eventually all melt. How y'all doing? Is it melting, mixing together? I still have a couple clumps in mine.
And feel free to unmute yourself to ask any questions you might have or comment on your progress.
I stirred so enthusiastically with my little mini whisk, I broke it.
Oh no, sorry.
Right, it's very old.
Oh. Okay. Okay, mine's just about melted. And there you have it. And then you just pour it. Do beware, turmeric does stain, is one of the things. So then you just pour it into your little jar.
Mm.
And there you have it. And then you want to store that in your fridge, because if it didn't have the water, I think it would last for quite a while, but it has the water in it, so it makes it a nice paste. And so, yeah, you do want to store it in your fridge, and it'll last weeks in your fridge. And then it's just a really handy thing to have. It's a handy way to get your turmeric. You can take a teaspoon or a tablespoon, and it's put it over your veggies, put it in your rice, spread it on your toast. Just, then you just have it to like easily spread and put on things. What was another way I was going to tell you? I don't know, slipped my mind. But anyways, very just wonderful thing to have in there. And just helps you to, I think it's helpful to, helps to take it more. When you have different ways you can take it and get it on things. I know, golden milk. So I don't know if you've heard that before. Golden milk, it's all the rage in some areas, some scenes. And so you can take this golden paste and make your golden milk. You have all the ingredients in your paste now, and you just take about, depending on how you like it, teaspoon to a tablespoon, and put that in any kind of milk and warm up your milk and stir in your golden paste, and you have your golden milk that you can have in the morning, you can have in the evening. In the evening, it's nice to also add, you don't need to do this, but ashwagandha is a wonderful herb that is helpful, relaxing herb. It's an adaptogen. It helps with stress response, and it's a nice thing. Often people will have ashwagandha and their golden milk together in the evening, and that's a nice sort of calming drink and can help with sleep. But yeah, so there there you have that. Now we have golden paste. Did anybody get it in their jar and get some made? Carla, all right. Nice.
And Kimberly, oh, good. We have another one from Lynn. I'm glad some people did it. That's wonderful.
Great. Great.
Someone else is asking, where do you get all of your herbs? What is your preferred source for, I assume, meaning dried herbs?
Yeah. Different places. Excuse me. I can put some links in the short handout that I'll give you too. Yeah, I like to try and do local if I can, but I don't always because they often run out or don't have always what I need. But Zach Wood's Herb Farm is a Vermont herb farm. So it's nice to go check there first to see if they have what you need. And then there's Jean's Greens, which is in New York. And they have a bunch of herbs and they usually have plenty. And you can get it quicker when you order from Jean's Greens and it's closer. A little more expensive, I'd say, than say Mountain Rose Herbs, which was out in Oregon. But they're a bigger company and they have a huge amount of different herbs. Those are most of the places I use. Banyan Botanicals is another one that has Ayurvedic powders and Ayurvedic herbs. That's a good one. First Chinese Herbs is another one I will use, actually, that if you're wanting to get herbs that are harder to find, like for Lyme disease herbs, First Chinese Herbs will usually have a lot more of those. Yeah.
That's great. I think people would love to have the names of those companies and whatever handouts you can send me.
Okay.
Along with recipes for all of your marvelous concoctions. By the time you were done talking about chai, I was thinking, I'm going to go right to the counter as soon as this program is over and make myself some homemade chai because
awesome.
there's a remarkable combination of healing properties in this. I love chai, but I never really think about the medicinal, effects of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's so yummy, but actually it's doing all these great things in your body too.
We might not have time for the vinegar tonight, but it sounds like that's fairly simple to make. But I'm wondering if other people have any last questions for Kimberly. Feel free to unmute yourself, turn on your video, and go ahead and ask if you do.
Can you just clarify again, how long does the paste last that we just made in the fridge?
I would say like 2 to 3 weeks.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah. Did you make some?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Oh, yeah.
Great. Awesome.
Kimberly?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Whoever was starting to talk.
Oh, yes. Thank you. One more question back to garlic. Can we use roasted garlic when we're using it sort of medicinally?
Yeah.
Versus raw, or is there a difference?
There is a difference. Yeah. When it's cooked, it loses its, they say it loses its effect on the antimicrobial and the immune boosting effects.
Okay.
So it's,
best to use it raw.
I think maybe it's still somewhat effective, but it is best to have it raw.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Carla. Do you ever freeze your turmeric root or your ginger root?
I haven't, but I think I was just hearing somebody say that they did. And
well, I did, and I was using some of the ginger root in this concoction, and it's a lot more watery than initially when it's fresh, but it just was going bad in the refrigerator, and I just didn't know if you'd experienced that.
Right. Yeah. No, I hadn't, like I said, I haven't done it myself, but I have heard recently, actually, somebody was saying that to me, and with the ginger and the turmeric, and that they froze it, and that was a great way to preserve it, and then they could still use it. So.
Well, I really appreciate this. I live in Nashville, Tennessee, and my cousin, Brooks Roby, sent me this link. They live up there in Hanover.
Oh, wow.
And so I appreciate all this information.
That's great. I'm so glad you joined us. That's wonderful.
Yeah, it was fun.
That's great. Awesome.
Wonderful to have you here from Tennessee.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It really was really interesting. I appreciate, and I look forward to seeing your the actual, proportions of things and the recipes.
Yeah.
Great.
Great.
Thank you.
Great. Yeah, you're welcome.
So, I know I have a question about like how long does, for example, I got from some farmer's market probably a year ago a whole bunch of turmeric, and how long does it last if it's in that powder form? I mean, like, is it still? I mean, that's what I used tonight because I was like, I
Yeah.
didn't know what to do with it.
Gosh, it's hard to know, but I mean, I've used turmeric that's been that old too, and it seems to still be pretty potent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. I think it's probably still fine.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you all so much for coming. And again, whatever recipes and handouts Kimberly sends to us, we'll forward along to you. And we'll hope to see perhaps some of you back here in 2 weeks for her second program. And Kimberly, thank you so much. That was terrific. I was taking notes myself the whole time.
Oh, great. Well, yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you all so much for being here.
Have a good night, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.